What's good, YouTube? Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to go over some P. Diddy nonsense. If you don't know, he's in court right now fighting his trial or case. A lady on TikTok is also breaking it down to cover that as well. So here we go.
Talk about day one of the Diddy trial. To be clear, this is a federal trial, so there aren't any cameras in this courtroom. Cameras are not allowed in federal trials. So I am using tweets from Inner City Press and Josh Russell to give a synopsis of the day. But y'all should really follow and support them because they are at the courtroom live tweeting throughout the day. Okay, so it's worth noting that before jury selection was complete today, Diddy's attorneys made note that the government struck 7 black people, which they called a pattern and made reference to the Batson versus Kentucky Supreme Court case. That case basically says that prosecutors are not allowed to use preemptory strikes, or the strikes where they don't have to explain why they are striking someone, based on someone's race. They ruled it's a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. So his team was essentially saying they were striking people because they're black. The judge eventually denied the Batson challenge and jury selection carried on until the jury was seated. And the jury makeup is 8 men and 4 women. But I don't know their races. As a reminder, Diddy is facing 2 counts of trafficking, 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, and 1 count of racketeering conspiracy. And in opening statements, the government highlights that this case is not about Diddy's preferences. They say that his behavior was criminal. He coerced and used lies, threats, drugs, and violence to force the victims to engage with escorts in front of him. And he used his employees and bodyguards to carry out crimes such as kidnapping, arson, distributing paraphernalia, and exploiting employees for labor. He once, according to
I
tweets,
believe it.
made an escort urinate in Cassie's mouth.
Mm.
Now, the defense, on the other hand, says that this case is about Diddy's preferences. They admit that he has a temper and has gotten violent to the point of being out of control, but they emphasize that domestic violence and trafficking are 2 totally different things, and participating in drugs and alcohol does not equate to racketeering activity. They go on to say that the women in Diddy's life benefited from being with him, and the reason Cassie finally left is because she realized she would never be Kim Porter, Diddy's true soulmate. Okay, so you get the point. They are essentially saying that these victims were.
Hold up. Why would you want to be Kim Porter if we know Kim Porter was, magically unalived after she caught pneumonia? Some of y'all be bird
Willing
brains.
and active participants in this activity, and there was no conspiracy or racketeering activity. This all really just comes down Diddy being a freak, allegedly. So after openings, the government starts off hot. The first witness was the assistant director of security at the Intercontinental Hotel on the day of that infamous video that we've all seen. His name is Israel Flores, and he testified that he got a report of a woman on the 6th floor in distress. After checking the cameras, he rushes up to the 6th floor and sees Diddy in a towel and socks and Cassie on the floor. Cassie told the security guard that she wanted her phone and her bag and that she wanted to leave, but Diddy allegedly responded that she wasn't leaving, and when the guard peeked inside their hotel room, he saw a man wearing dark clothing. Cassie does eventually leave, and Diddy hands the security guard a creepy charge to the room. He also at one point says that he pinned Diddy to the wall. The security guard then says that he recorded the footage from the security cameras onto his cell phone so that he could show his wife. And when he came back to work 2 days later, the footage from the security camera was gone. And then it's time for a cross examination, and Brian Steele is up for cross. According to reports, Brian highlighted that despite recording the video with his phone, the security guard never actually called law enforcement to the incident, and that by the time Diddy was handing him the alleged bribery money, the security guard had already told Diddy that he would need to pay for the vase they had broken. I'm assuming the insinuation here is that maybe the money was being handed over to pay for the damage and not as a bribe. On redirect, the government addresses that specifically by asking the security guard what Diddy said when he handed him the money, to which the security guard said Diddy told him he didn't want anyone to know what happened. The next witness called is a
Obviously.
male dancer named Daniel Phillip, and he testifies that Cassie paid him to engage with her while Diddy was watching. The dancer says that his boss actually told him that he was going to be going to a bachelorette party, but when he got to the location, Cassie was there in a red wig, stockings, and sunglasses. And
Mm.
Diddy was on the right side of the room in a white robe, a baseball cap, and a bandana over his face. But as soon as he spoke, the dancer knew who he was. Diddy apparently
Obviously.
also told the guy he was in importing and exporting. Now, during this first engagement, the dancer says that Cassie asked him to urinate on her, but he was apparently doing it wrong because Cassie and Diddy said something. After that first engagement, the dancer says that he was called back later that day and multiple times after that for freak offs. And during one freak off specifically, he took MDMA and then went to Times Square and handed out $100 bills. The dancer testified about using baby oil at every engagement. And
Okay, so freak offs were just Cassie and a prostitute while Diddy was watching. That's weird. I guess if you want to give something a name, we could call it a freak off. I was gonna give it a different word, but I won't.
and said that one time Diddy had him and Cassie do some role playing, but they weren't good at it, so they aborted that mission. The dancer says that he was turned off the first time he saw Diddy being violent to Cassie, but he chose not to intervene. And in another instance, he says that Diddy took a picture of his ID, which he took as a threat. Daniel Phillips says that he thought he and Cassie had developed a sort of friendship, and so he asked her once why she was staying with Diddy, but she said it was okay. And that pretty much sums up day one of what is expected to be an 8-week trial. But y'all make sure to follow and support Inner City Press and Josh Russell because, again, they are in the courtroom and live tweeting. Okay, bye. I'm not a lawyer, but let's get into day two of the Diddy trial. This is my part one recap for the day, so I'm just going to cover what happened up until lunch. So the day started off with a quick hearing because yesterday, news organizations filed a motion basically requesting that the courtroom remain open to the public when the freak off videos are played, versus like closing the courtroom and only the attorneys, the jurors, and the defendant are able to watch. Another option that the media organization suggested was instead of keeping the courtroom open, the judge just allows some of the reporters the ability to view the videos when they are played. And of course, the issue here is does the public's interest and right to know what's going on with this trial outweigh the privacy of the people in these videos? Today, the judge says that he's inclined to keep it open to the public because of how key these videos are to this case, but he's giving attorneys another day to make their arguments about it. So for now, no ruling. Okay, now on to the witness testimony. The day picks back up with the witness from yesterday, Daniel Phillips, who is the male dancer who engaged in multiple freak-offs with Diddy and Cassie. And just a reminder, the defense's position is that Cassie and the other victims in this case willingly participated in all of the activities they did. They say all of the freak off engagements were consensual and Diddy didn't have to force or coerce anyone to participate. So as you hear some of the questions they're asking, just know that that's their defense. Okay, so Diddy's attorney asked Daniel Phillips who would take the lead during him and Cassie's encounters, to which he said there wasn't a leader, they were just equally doing their thing. He's also asked about who paid him, to which he says that Cassie did, and he stated that she wasn't intoxicated. However, when asked if it was fair to say that Cassie was in complete control of everything she did, Daniel Phillips says that he can't say that. He goes on to say that he didn't think he was in a relationship with Cassie, but when asked if he wanted to date her, he says he would have if she would have let him. Then the government gets back up, and during redirect, Daniel Phillips stresses that the freak-offs were under Diddy's direction, which was made clear by him asking about positions, telling them what to do, and that they needed to use baby oil. He also noted that he made anywhere between $700 and $3,800 for his services, and when he did not perform, he was not paid. Daniel Phillips' testimony is wrapped up with some back and forth about him still choosing to engage in freak-offs after he saw Diddy being violent to Cassie. He apparently sent a text saying, quote, "Don't give a F if I'm a little tipsy. I love y'all N-words." But Phillips says, yes, that text was sent after he saw the violence, but he sent it to show them that he didn't have a problem with what he saw. He wanted to keep the engagements going. So then Daniel Phillips is excused, and there's a brief break where Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, is brought up. Diddy's attorneys are saying that they may call Alex Fine to the witness stand, so they don't want him to be in the courtroom during Cassie's testimony. Ultimately, the judge rules that Alex can stay in the courtroom for some of Cassie's testimony, but when they start getting into what happened in 2018 and later, Alex has to leave. And then one of the star witnesses for this case, Cassie Ventura, is called. She's almost immediately asked about her relationship with Diddy, to which she says he controlled a lot of her life, and she detailed some of his violence.
One thing I don't understand is why they're having this whole conversation in what the dialogue is when I feel like the security guard didn't really do his job to the fullest because I didn't see no police involved. He didn't call anybody else. He didn't have any backup. Cassie does leave at some point, but still, it's just kind of weird.
Saying that he would drag her, stomp her, and give her black eyes and bruises. She was also asked to describe what exactly a freak off is, and she says it's the hiring of a male escort and setting up an experience so that she could perform for Sean, aka Diddy. She said that the first time he asked her for one, she was confused and nervous, but she just wanted to make him happy. And as these engagements continued, she said she didn't feel like she could say no because she didn't know what no could turn into. She expressed that she was scared of his violence or that he would expose some of the recordings of the freak offs that he had taken. Cassie was asked about some of the beginning stages of her relationship with Diddy, to which she testified testified about their first kiss, their first encounter, and the first time she took paraphernalia. She said she was very jealous at the beginning of their relationship, but Diddy also made clear that he likes the company of women. Now, again, prosecutors are trying to show that Diddy coerced and forced Cassie to do things, but they also have this RICO charge where they are trying to prove that Diddy had a network of people who were helping him accomplish what he was doing. So prosecutors asked Cassie how Diddy would keep tabs on her, to which she said they didn't live far apart and he'd send security to come find her or a trusted assistant like David James or Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram. Now, rounding out Cassie's testimony before lunch, she testified that freak offs became a job. They eventually didn't have time to do anything but have a freak off and then recover. She said the longest one was 4 days or even more with breaks. And with that, they go to lunch. So I'll be back with a part 2 to tell you how the rest of the day went. Also, another shout out to all the people who are there in the courtroom and providing these updates for me to give you the recap. Freak offs. He paid for her lifestyle, her cars, but he also took things away as punishment. And when prosecutors asked her what else he took away, Cassie responded, quote, my self-confidence. Cassie testified that she was in constant contact with Diddy's staff and security, and they would be the ones who took her things away, which again is pointing to the RICO charge and this network of people that Diddy had to enforce his power. Cassie said she spent a lot of time at Diddy's homes, and they were all equipped with cash, jewelry, cameras, videotapes, and weapons. Cassie then testifies about a time that they were having a freak-off in LA, and Diddy's security guard, D-Rock, told him that Suge Knight was down at a diner. Cassie said she was scared and cried, begging him not to do anything stupid. And if you recall Cassie's lawsuit from 2023, this incident was mentioned in there. From there, prosecutors switched gears and asked Cassie about the very first freak-off. She says that they disguised themselves, she wore a masquerade mask, and at the end of it, she says she felt dirty and confused, but was also happy that Diddy was happy with her and that he had shared this part of himself with her. But as the freak-offs continued and were happening weekly, she said she wanted them to stop, but she eventually backpedaled about trying to stop the freak-offs because she didn't want to make him angry. Cassie then goes through all of the locations that they had freak-offs, including Miami, New York, California, Atlanta, and Spain, which of course goes to the trafficking charge, in which prosecutors say Diddy recruited, transported, and willfully caused victim one, who is Cassie, to engage in acts, disregarding the fact that she was engaging in these acts because she was forced or coerced to. Cassie notes that regardless of where the sessions happened, they always had the supplies, including baby oil, which she was specifically asked what brand of baby oil, and she said Johnson's, and that if they ever ran out, staff or the bell desk would get them more. She testified that sessions were very choreographed with lots of baby oil, and the oil would be heated up in a sink filled with hot water and then applied a lot because Diddy wanted her constantly glistening. Cassie says she was expected to participate in freak-offs at all times during the month, and when asked if she wanted urine included in these sessions, she replied, it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. No one could think I wanted it. Questions from prosecutors then turned to how participants of the freak-offs were found, and Cassie says that she used Craigslist and Backpage, but eventually learned that they needed to find safe participants, meaning people who wouldn't go telling everybody what they were doing, because Cassie learned that this whole situation was, quote, not legal. That not legal part was objected to, and the judge told the jury to disregard. So the day ends with prosecutors asking Cassie if she ever tried to leave a freak-off early. Cassie says yes, and says that that is what was happening in the infamous hotel video. She says she finally had a premiere coming up and didn't want to mess it up. So they're at this hotel having this freak off, and Diddy hit her in between sessions. She went to the elevator to leave, and next thing she knew, he threw her to the ground. She says she was trying to use the hotel phone when Diddy took her phone and her bag. So it seems prosecutors are using the video to show that, at least on that day, Cassie was forced to participate in the freak off. And when she tried to leave, Diddy exerted that force by becoming violent and trying to make her stay. But I'm not a lawyer and I can be wrong, so we will see how the prosecutor's questions continue on this matter. And with that, day 2 ends. I know I keep saying it, but make sure to support the people on the ground covering this case and support me. Make sure you are following on TikTok, subscribed on YouTube, join my Patreon, buy my
Oh
merch, all the
gosh.
things.
All right, guys. I'm gonna leave her information in the description if you want to follow her and follow this case more. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep covering it because this is already a little too heavy for me. It was when it first started. But Diddy, um, if any of this is true, you do deserve some jail time, sir. I don't know if it needs to be federal. The case is gonna keep going. If there's other people involved that you were doing this stuff to, then maybe you do need to sit up for a couple decades or something, sir. I never liked Diddy. From watching the band, how he made them walk for cheesecake, how he did Big, the stuff he had tied in to Suge Knight and Tupac. I've never been a P Diddy fan, so eh, I really don't care what happens to him, honestly. But I'm gonna cover it. If this video does well, I'll keep covering it. I've been J Stat. That ain't this piece.